Hi, I'm Paul Hales. I'm owner of Pro Audio Technology and Theory Audio Design. You're visiting us at our showroom in Southern California, where we have literally all the products on display and on demonstration, so you can hear live demonstrations here. Pro Audio Technology I founded in 2004, so we're in our 20th year, and the products primarily address, for the most part, very high-end private screening rooms. So when movie industry folks, directors, actors, people involved in music production, movie production, build what we would call a private screening room in their home, it's just a very, very high-end home theater. We cater to that market, and so we have a lot of systems installed around the world at the very high end of home theater. Then in 2019, we introduced Theory, and that's kind of to address two different things. One is to bring our kind of sound quality to the rest of the house, so outside of the private screening room, into distributed audio, media rooms, game rooms, great rooms, also into the backyard and into landscape and outdoor speakers, onto yachts and other applications that are outside, but also commercial. So what I would call small to medium size distributed audio for commercial spaces like retail stores, restaurants, bars, hotels, houses of worship, things like that, theme parks, stuff like that. And so we kind of have a unique approach. The products are all very dynamic, very big, bold, professional style sound, but with packaging that makes them appropriate for those different applications that I just mentioned. Give you a little bit of background. In the 1990s, from 1988 through the year 2000, I had a speaker company called Hales Design Group, or Hales. I designed and we sold loudspeakers for the very high-end two-channel market, so audiophile products. Gained some notoriety in that market segment, and the brand was fairly highly regarded at the time, which led to the ownership and management of QSC Audio, which was at the time the largest professional power amplifier company in the world, to reach out to me, and they invited me in to establish a research and development department for loudspeakers at QSC. So I was there from 2000 2004, where my team developed products for commercial cinema, for the small format installed sound that I mentioned, the retail store, restaurants, things like that, live sound, as well as musical instrument, sort of Guitar Center kind of powered speakers on sticks, kind of DJ kind of market. So I left QSC in 2004 and founded Pro to take professional style loudspeakers into residential screening rooms. And so for 20 years, that's what Pro's been doing. What Theory does is it builds upon the same philosophy of Pro, but it brings it into the rest of the house, into commercial spaces. But it's very much the same engineering approach. It's very high output professional components. Theory adds a bit more industrial design to it. So we have some unique form factors. For example, our surface mount speaker, where most of the speakers in the category are molded plastic boxes with a paper cone woofer and a dome tweeter. Ours is entirely aluminum. It's extruded and machined aluminum, and there are carbon fiber low frequency drivers and compression drivers. So across both brands, you're not going to find a dome tweeter anywhere. It's all compression drivers on both brands. So big dynamics, big bandwidth, and kind of packaged into smaller, more compact packages. That's kind of the claim to fame of both brands. The Theory brand, we have at the moment not a lot of different models. We have a small toolkit of models, but they're very capable. That's sort of our philosophy, and one of the things we're bringing to the market is a small stable of very capable products that will go everywhere and do everything. So you don't have to choose from 200 different ceiling speaker models. You can pick one that goes everywhere and does everything. So for instance, we have a 6-inch coaxial in-ceiling speaker that can go inside and it can go outside. It also can be installed into a pendant housing and converted to a pendant loudspeaker. And so that pendant housing, pendant speaker can also go inside or outside. There are a couple different surface mount speakers, very high output surface mount speakers. One that's primarily intended for residential installations that has a fabric grille, and then a different version of that called the AW, which is all weather. It can go outside, it can go on yachts, and it has a perforated stainless steel grill. It has a 70-volt transformer and some of the other features, mounting features that you need in commercial installs. So then there are a number of different subwoofers. There's two in-room subwoofers, sort of for the residential media rooms, things like that, gaming systems. And then there are two, soon to be three, more commercial style loudspeakers. One is an in-wall, fits in a 2x6 wall, very high output, 12-inch woofer, a 1400 watt 4-inch voice coil woofer. It's a professional woofer, not a 12-inch sort of consumer grade woofer, which you heard today. And then there are different enclosures that you can mount that driver into, one for in-wall, one for surface mount for like restaurants or in-ceiling applications. And then there are a range of loudspeaker controllers, and the loudspeaker controllers are actually common across the brands. So when we quote a Pro system, all the Pro systems are powered by the Theory loudspeaker controllers. So you get the Pro speakers, and then you get companion Theory loudspeaker controllers. And what I mean by loudspeaker controller is it's a multi-channel amplifier with a bunch of DSP inside, where we do a ton of speaker processing. So when you buy a Pro system or when you buy a Theory system, it's a closed system. You have to use our loudspeaker controllers with the loudspeaker. So you can kind of think of it as a powered speaker, something like a Genelec or maybe a Meridian speaker where they have the electronics inside the speaker. We've just taken the electronics out of the speaker and put it in the rack or in the on the shelf where it belongs, right? But it's very much still kind of a closed system, and that's how we get the remarkable performance out of the loudspeakers. Is the technology that's in the loudspeaker controller. We introduced Theory, we introduced Pro actually for the same reason, which was to solve a problem that wasn't getting solved by anybody else, right? So there were a number of loudspeaker companies, good brands, making product for high-end screening rooms, but none of them, especially at the time, could do what Pro set out to do, which was to bring cinematic sound, like commercial cinema, big-scale sound into your house. Most of the products at the time were just rebadged consumer stereo products. They turned one on its side and called it a center channel. These were designed as the speakers that are designed for commercial cinemas, and so I brought commercial cinema professional thinking to the house, and that's kind of what Theory does too. Is we bring in. And I maintained the audiophile sound quality, the prioritization of sound quality. That's what Theory's doing. Is in the segment that we're in with Theory, is sound quality isn't the primary objective when they design the products. Most of the products are commodities, right? So if you look at a typical ceiling speaker brand for residential distributed audio, their catalogs are extensive. They have hundreds and hundreds of models. They might even have dozens of 6-inch two-way ceiling speakers, right? I saw a brand, one of our competitors just recently announced a new range, and they had like 7 or 8 new 6-inch two-ways, right? In this, in the architectural install category, name series or whatever. And you just don't need that. What you need is a small number of very capable products that can, again, go everywhere and do everything. So instead of having 50 to choose from, you just have one that sounds better than everything else and can go everywhere you need it to go, right? So the kind of the model that we use, when we started Theory back in 2019 or early 2020, I think it was right before COVID, we invited a bunch of journalists here to our showroom to try to explain what it was we were doing. Because we had showed the soundbars at CEDIA, and I think the perception was, oh, Theory's a soundbar company. And I'm like, Theory's not a soundbar company, right? And so we wanted to make sure that we communicated to the world what it was we were doing. And so I came up with this analogy, and I looked around different product segments and identified Porsche as an example of kind of what Theory's trying to do. So if you look at what Porsche does, and you compare, say, Mercedes, great German car manufacturing brand, and Porsche, great German car manufacturing brand, I counted in the US anyway at the time, Mercedes was selling 28 different model cars, right? I think they had 7 or 8 different SUVs. If you looked at Porsche, they're all in the same categories: roadsters, sedans, coupes, and SUVs. Porsche makes roadsters, sedans, coupes, and SUVs, and they do it with 6 models, right? So we're taking the Porsche approach. Make a small number of super capable products, keep it simple, make it easier for the installer and for the end user to get great performance. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're here for. We wouldn't have brought another speaker brand to the market, an already oversaturated marketplace, if we weren't going to do something different. And so if you spend a little bit of time studying what it is we're doing, how we're doing it, and the results we're getting, I think just about everybody that knows about us has concluded it is in fact different, right? How do you describe the different performance you get from Theory and Pro? So in both cases, what we're going to give you, application for application, is we're going to give you wider bandwidth, generally speaking. We're going to give you greater dynamic range, generally speaking, and we're going to give it to you in a more compact package, right? And there's a consistency of timbre. There's an accurate timbre that's consistent from the very smallest Theory speaker we make all the way up through the biggest Pro speaker that we make, which get quite large, right? And there's an accuracy to the sound. And so at Infocom in June and at CEDIA in September, we demonstrated that. We played all the models, right? So most of the CEDIA demos by our competitors were some big complex surround system with 24 speakers or 36 speakers all playing at you once, and we took an entirely different approach. We played every product individually and in combinations so that you could assess exactly what you get from all the different models. And one of the messages we conveyed was listen to how accurate and how consistent, how the same they sound. If you have a loudspeaker manufacturer that makes a bunch of different models and they all sound different, then ask them which one is right, because they can't all be right, right? If by definition, if they sound different than each other, are none of them right? Is one right? Which one is right, right? So we get the same accurate timbre out of every model, whether it's a landscape speaker, a ceiling speaker, a surface mount speaker, a subwoofer. And so when you hear the systems, or if you read the reviews where reviewers have spent a lot of time with the products, they are crazy dynamic, they are crazy engaging, they do all the audiophile sound staging and imaging and all the stuff you would expect from sort of an audiophile system, but they add in a dynamic range that just none of those products can give you, right? And then we package it in a product that's smaller and easier to install into tight spaces, and that's kind of what we're doing here. I would just say that the sound is more thrilling. It's more viscerally engaging. You feel it more, and because it's so accurate and smooth, you can play it a little louder and really enjoy a thrilling sound that the other brands, for whatever reason, can't give you, right? So for me, what I want the system to do is I want the system to allow you to enjoy a beautiful piece of music. I listen to everything. My favorite band is Tool, which is, I guess you would call either heavy rock or metal. I don't know how you classify Tool. But I listen to a ton of classical music. And when I listen to classical music, I tend to like the slow adagios and the impressionistic music from the late 1800s and things, and the slow ones, right? I even like the slow metal songs too. And so I want to forget the world and enjoy the composition and the music that my favorite artists have created. And so one of the reasons why, I kind of say this as a joke, but I mean it, one of the reasons why we're taking Theory into the commercial world is I'm tired of going to restaurants and going out to dinner. You know, we do that quite often. We enjoy that. We go out and I hearing bad sound, right? Like I want to be able to hear the song and understand the lyrics and enjoy the atmosphere that the music creates, right? Because you can put on some nice background music and it enhances your meal, right? If you go into a silent restaurant with no background music, it's not as good. So we're trying to bring the emotional connection to the music, and one of the things that the speakers do is they capture the tone color, the tonal color that comes out of the instrument. So we played I picked the saxophone cut first for the theory demo because it has a very complex harmonic structure, right? And when the fundamental and the harmonics are in correct balance, you get this rich tone, right? Think about music. Think if you subtract rhythm, composition, all that stuff out, and you get a musician with a fine instrument, a violin, a saxophone, whatever, they can play a single note, right? There's no composition there. It's not a piece of music. It's just a single tone, but it sounds compelling. One of the things that I realized pretty early on in my career, and I hate to say this, that was way back in the sort of mid-late 90s, was that audio manufacturers, and I even think audio end users, the customers, had gotten into a bad habit of comparing this stereo component to other stereo components rather than comparing this stereo component to music or to the real thing, right? And I became painfully aware of that in the late 90s, and I realized at the time, wow, these high-end audio systems, they're cute, and they're great, and they are satisfying, but they don't come very close to real sound at all, right? And so I stopped doing that. I stopped comparing our speaker, this new speaker, to the last speaker we made or to the competitor speaker, and I started comparing the performance to real music, real voice, real sound effects, right? So, you know, I played the drums a little bit when I was younger, and I know what a drum set sounds like, what a snare drum sounds like, what the tom-tom sound like, the power coming off a kick drum. And so I stopped, you know, comparing one product to another similar product, and I started comparing the sound of a drum set reproduced by our speakers compared to the sound of a drum set, right? And even when I was at QSC, they thought I was nuts because we bought a saxophone, a guitar, and a drum kit. Because I was like, we're not going to listen to the competitor PA box. We're gonna play those instruments, and then we're gonna play them back. We're gonna record them. So I bought this recording console, and then we're gonna play it back and compare it to the real thing. And so I think most audio manufacturers don't do that, right? They're either comparing the new model to the last model they made or to the competitor model, but I don't think they're stopping to look at what real sound effects, what real human voice sounds like, or what real instruments sound like. You know, there was a real quick story. I was at a CES not too long ago. You know, the audio part of CES has really died away, but I was in a room, a good friend of mine has a cable company, Cardis Audio, and he was known to bring live musicians into his demo rooms and have them perform, right? Even Ben Harper, he kind of discovered Ben Harper. He had Ben Harper in his CES showroom back in like '92 or something like that. But he had a singer that he brought from Oregon, where they're from, and he was a big man. He was a giant guy. He was probably like 6'5", and just this massive, well-proportioned but big guy. And he had a guitar, and he was singing and playing guitar with no amplification or any kind of sound reinforcement. And the sound was huge, and it was loud, and it was big, and he was big, and the sound was big. And I was sitting in the other room. I was sitting in the adjoining suite talking to the Cardises, and I said, "Do you hear that? Do you hear how powerful he is?" And I said, "The systems don't sound like him, right?" And that's sort of like the kick I've been on for the last 25 years or so, is pursuing that rather than pursuing the last hi-fi that we made. Okay, so if any of this sounds interesting to you, we do have a well-appointed showroom in Orange County, California. It's open to the public. It's open to our dealer partners and our rep partners and our international partners. But as consumers, it's okay to request a demo. You can go to the websites. The best one for Theory is theoryprofessional.com. Pro is proaudiotechnology.com. There are forms there where you can request a demo here at our showroom, or you can also kind of look at our reps and find resellers in your area that way from the websites as well.